Hello my posse, hello all my new subscribers. Thank you so much to my new subscribers for joining my Giddy Up Posse group. We have a lot of fun over here on my channel. I appreciate you all, and I'm glad that you came today and joined me in my living room. I've got my door open. I don't know if you can see all that snow there, but we broke records here in Michigan. Yeah, hey, yay for us. I think it's, we had 10 inches of snow and record-breaking cold temperatures for November, which I think were just about zero with the wind chill factors. Yeah, I don't know why I stayed here. I had so many chances years ago to move to a warm climate, but here I am. I'm stuck here. So, but that's okay, because you make the best of what you got, you know. So today, I thank you for joining me. We are doing the last part, part 3 of my 3-part series of on getting older and what to expect. The first part 1, I will link them all below in case you haven't seen part 1 or part 2. But part 1 was about living your dash. We're giving 2 dates in life, one date, our birth date, and our end date. And the dash in the middle is what we live, and we have to make the best of it. So we touched on that on part 1. And on part 2, we talked about exercising at this age, well, any age, but as we growing older, maturing, women of a certain age or men of a certain age, exercising our bodies and our minds, and how important it is to stay focused and to exercise your rights, your mind, and your spirit, and how to live your life. And so today is probably the most difficult one, I think, that we have challenges on, and that is downsizing. And what we're going to talk about today, I think, affects a lot of us. And it's a really difficult one, especially for me. So stay tuned. So I think the word downsizing, as we approach our older years, man, this is a really tough one. It's a tough one, I think, for me. We have been hit with the downsizing probabilities in the last couple of years, and I'll tell you, it's no easy task. I think it's probably one of the hardest decisions that we have to stay focused on, and we have to try to stay positive about, because it's a real challenge to downsize, especially I think if you're married still, if we're blessed to still have our husbands and our partners, because to get 2 people to agree on this process is kind of a difficult, very difficult decision. I mean, downsizing, it could be because you want to downsize and you're tired of cleaning your house, or you can't, you just don't want to do it anymore. That's like a whole different mental perception of what the word downsizing is. Second part of downsizing is downsizing maybe because your partner is no longer with you and you're forced into a move because you can't afford what you currently have or are used to, because of financial burdens that have become yours. You no longer have 2 incomes. You no longer have 2 of anything. You're by yourself. You have 1 income, and you're maybe stuck in your home or stuck in a place that you cannot afford. And that's a different mental perception of downsizing. And the third downsizing is just wanting to get out of your situation, both of you agreeing, if you're still with your spouse like I am, and both of you agreeing like, hey, we got to take a step back here. We don't want to leave all this stuff for our kids. We've got to get out of this situation and get into a smaller area. That to me is kind of like well, for me, it's the toughest, because I tell you, I've got, and I tell him this all the time, a real, you know, my husband, he's a real pack rat. I mean, getting my husband, and we were forced into this about a year or so ago, and it was very difficult. Yeah, and it was a very difficult time, because I'm all for garage sales and getting rid of things. To a point, I am. I mean, I do save some things, you know. I mean, okay, I have bell bottoms that I've had since the, you know, the 70s. Okay, so. but you know, seriously, I have been wanting for 2 years to have a garage sale, to start the process of downsizing. And we still own our home, and we had this home built, you know, 6 years ago. And my husband always says, well, you know, they're going to take me out of here and in a pine box. I'm never leaving. And I thought, oh brother, you know. But it's not the way it's going to be, and it's not the way it should be. And you know, I think about this a lot, because he's been a very good worker all his life, and we've been in the business where, you know, me being a beautician and then in the medical profession, I really was not given the opportunity for 401ks and all that stuff. And we owned our own business, and in the machine shop end of it for a lot of years. And I guess just taking care of our employees and taking care of their insurances and taking care of this stuff, we didn't really give ourselves the 401ks that we should have had. I mean, maybe you have that, and that's great. I did not have that opportunity to do that. Should I have? Yes. I did have a 401k, but we were buying a new home at the time, and I cashed it in, so that took care of that, which, you know, I was in my 40s, so, you know, I wasn't thinking about being in my 70s, but when I was in my 40s, I was still hooping and getting things that you want, which is another process of downsizing, because, you know, we're so used to the pattern of life that we've had, buying things and going where we want to and buying for the grandkids, or going to the store and getting what we want, and all of a sudden, you know, things start tightening up. You know, we both retired, so we both have our Social Security, and yes, we have a savings, but you know how quickly money can go in a savings account. I mean, it goes pretty quick. The price of food is ridiculous. The price of medication is astronomical. I mean, money can really fly. And some of you might be in a position where you have your home paid off, and that's really great. You know, maybe your home is valued, you know, at a lot of money, and I'm sure at that age you can live off of that forever, but you're still looking into budgeting, and it's a difficult process to budget. At least it is for me. I mean, I'm a big spender, a big shopper, a big wig buyer. I mean, I have to reel it in sometimes, and I think the process of downsizing is just is really hard for a lot of us. My husband is absolutely against throwing anything of his away, and we have gotten into some pretty heated arguments, I think, about it, because my voice is scratchy today too. I've got sinus drainage, and I don't know why with this cold weather, so I apologize if I'm... But anyway, he won't throw anything away. I mean, when I go down the basement, he starts to shake, and he follows me downstairs, because I go down there and I like throw my hands up, and I go, why do you need all this stuff? Oh, just leave my stuff alone. I know where everything's at, and he does. I mean, if somebody comes over and says, hey, Denny, I need a piece of string about 12 feet long, you got it? Yeah, I know exactly where it's at. And he goes down the basement, he's got a bin, he knows exactly where it's at. He's got screws, he's got nails, he's got every size hammer. I mean, who needs 5 drills? You know, and he buys a new one, and he keeps the old one. I go, why did you buy a new one if you kept the old one? I mean, he goes, well, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. I go, well, sell it in the garage sale. I'd rather put it out to the curb than sell it for $2 at a garage sale. I'm like, it's more than you got now. I mean, he's just adamant about he hates garage sales, and he just says he's going to throw it to the curb before he gets rid of it, but he doesn't. I mean, he's got tons of stuff. You know, I counted 18 toolboxes that he's got down that basement. 18. And I said to him one day, why do you have so many toolboxes? He goes, why? Why? I go, you got 18 toolboxes down there. He goes, yeah, and I got something in every one. And he did. He had a hammer in one. He had some screwdrivers in another one. He had some nails in another one. 18. And I think, you know, he did get rid of a couple, but I bet you if I go down there, he's still got 15, 16 toolboxes. What man needs that? Who needs that? I mean, and then he goes to me, how come all my stuff is junk, but your stuff is all garage sale stuff? I go, your stuff could be garage sale stuff too. If you'd get rid of the darn stuff, why do you need 18 toolboxes? I could make, you know, some money on those. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. You don't want to hear of it. So if you're faced with that, that's a real dilemma. If you're faced with a guy like me who's a pack rat and just saves stuff. I'm going to take you for a tour down there one day. I am. So getting him to get rid of his things. I mean, this man has bins and bins of stuff in the basement, ready to throw out. No, I take that back. He has bins and bins of things in the basement, all marked and labeled, that could be thrown out, but he won't get rid of anything. And I could sweep up pretty much a lot of things in a garage sale, but he just, as sweet as he is, as patient as he is, he just hates garage sales. So for 2 years, I'm stuck with all this stuff in a corner of my basement that I want to get rid of, because I keep telling him, you know, it's not fair to have the kids come in, God forbid something happens. If something happens to him first, you know, I'm going to be left with one income and the money that we have saved to live on. And I mean, I'm going to live to be 110, so that money's going to go. I don't know. It's just going to go. So, but you know, and I realized, you know, downsizing, the other aspect of downsizing is, I don't know how it is in your community, but here, to get a senior home or move into a senior apartment, and some that we have gone out in price, because we did this last year, we priced, they're like $4,500 a month. Now, I guess if you have 401ks and you have a lot of money, you can afford those, but that's a lot of money to come out of if you're on Social Security a month. They do not take care of seniors here. I mean, in my state, they don't. There is nothing that's inexpensive in my state of Michigan to benefit seniors in housing. You know, that's a big thing to have to think about. And when we bought this home, we had it built, the monthly payments are far less than they are into going into a senior place. But you have your gas, you have your electric. I mean, you have the maintenance on your home, which my husband, you know, still does, and you know, he's got COPD, he's got atrial fib, and really he shouldn't be out there shoveling, but he's been out there, you know, shoveling. And just, I think to myself, we got to downsize it at least to get away from all the maintenance that there is. But it's a very difficult situation, I think, when you're older, to be able to both come together with some kind of terms on downsizing. And really, for us, and you're really probably, a lot of you maybe are faced with the fact that, well, you know, what are you going to downsize to? I mean, if you own your own home and you can stay there, that's great as far as financial goes, but you got to get help. You know, if you're single, widowed, you'll need help with grass, you'll need help with all that stuff if you stay in your home. So you have to think about all that, and that's a difficult decision to think about. It's one I think that I have postponed for a long time, and it's something that you really, really need to think about. You know, there are some who can afford beautiful senior housing. We have one here. They want a portfolio before they even let you come into their community. You have to have a portfolio. You have to have money. And I called them once, and they said, well, we'll sell your house for you, and then we keep your money. And I said, well, why would you keep my money? And they said, well, no, we keep it in a fund, and we pay all your bills with that. And I go, then what? What if the money goes dry? Well, then you'll have to, you know, make some other arrangements of where to move. Maybe your children can all pitch in. Yeah, your children can all pitch in, which they should. But I'm not saying, but no. But you know, they could all pitch in and help you stay here. So once they go through your money and pay all your bills, you know, I guess they boot you out. I don't know. I had one lady tell me, we went to look at a senior apartment. It was $4,000 a month, and they had no kitchens in them because they wouldn't let you cook in these places. You had to buy the 3 meals a day downstairs in their dining room. So they forced you to do that. And I go, well, I've got X amount of dollars in the bank, and this is what we have in Social Security. She goes, oh, okay, well, you'll qualify. I go, yeah, but $4,000 a month plus meals, and I can't even make chocolate chip cookies in the kitchen with Bella because there's no stove, there's nothing. I mean, there's a refrigerator. And I said, how long is it going to take before all your money is drained? Well, I mean, what if I live, I mean, what if I live to 100? What do I do that? Well, then we'll talk about putting you in another complex on an assisted living program. I'm thinking, what? What? So it's really a tough decision to downsize. Getting rid of things, you know, you have a home, and through the years, you know, you accumulate. I mean, you have Halloween decorations, you have Christmas decorations, you have Thanksgiving decorations, you have Christmas, did I say that? You know, my husband's a big Christmas outside decorator. We have half a basement full of Christmas gadgets that light up outside, that Santa's doing this and he's in the toilet, and I don't know. He's got everything that you can think of, and he loves to put them out. And so, you know, you accumulate that stuff because every year he buys more, and then you just accumulate. You know, I have boxes of kids' memorabilia, things that go back to my kids, things all my grandchildren that have made. I keep them in boxes, and you can't throw them out. I mean, you can't throw them out. So they accumulate and accumulate. So you accumulate so many things when you own your home that to downsize, to think about downsizing is just really, really hard for me. And for a lot of people, I've talked to many people, we've emailed back and forth, who are doing the same situation. You know, you don't want to give up what you have. You don't want to give up the style of living that you have. You don't want to give up your stuff. I mean, we've talked about even downsizing and getting a storage unit to put all our stuff in. I don't know. I mean, we'll get it in there. What are we going to do? Going to barrel through it and look? Well, let me find that picture that Bella did for me when she was 3. I mean, what are you going to do with it when you get in a storage place? And then now the storage places are, of course, they're catching on, and they're sky high. It's like you can't find a storage area short of $100, $150, at least in my area, a month. So that's another added expense. So, you know, it's a matter of getting rid of everything and going into, you know, an apartment or going into a senior living. And if you're lucky enough to be able to live with your children, I mean, that's great. It can work to your benefit on both sides, I guess. I know my daughter, you know, would take me in if she could, or her dad if that was the case. But, you know, it's a real burden. I mean, you don't want to think of it as a burden because you've raised them and you've sacrificed a lot for them, but it's a different situation when your kids are older. And sometimes if you have sons, they have wives, and sometimes that situation, you know, living in the same household isn't good. So there's a lot of things to think about when you downsize. And the biggest thing for me is getting my husband to have a garage sale or throw it out. You know what he says to me? Well, if something happens to me, just put it out on the curb. That'll be my life. Put it out on the curb. And I'm thinking, what? I said, you know, that's a terrible thing to say. I mean, let's just do it now, gradually. And then when the time comes that we move, then, you know, it won't be so devastating. And it is, it is hard because I tell you, my husband and I, we lost a lot of money in that kind of mini recession that we had back in 2005, and it wasn't easy for us, which makes this whole downsizing process to me difficult, because we had a house on the lake and we made a big profit on that house. We bought another house that was a little bit smaller than the lake house, so that was considered downsizing to us, and we put most of our money down on that house, and just and then the rest we fixed up the house. We did this, we did that, not even thinking of I don't know, I guess we should have just thought more. And I guess if you get nothing out of this and you're younger, you've got to think more about putting that fund away and not spending so much, or not fixing up your house. I was always like a decorator and a fixer-upper, and so you got to put that fund aside. You got to prepare for this day that's coming. But we didn't either. And then all of a sudden, everything crashed. And my husband, we had sold our business, and he was working for another fella, and there was no work, and he got laid off. And I broke my leg, and so I wasn't able to work for a while. And we were stuck in this big house, and just, and then we had gotten a home equity loan, and we were paying things on the home equity loan because we thought, well, everything was going to turn around, and we were going to pay off this home equity loan, and we were going to pay it off as soon as he got back to work, and I got back to work, and it didn't happen fast enough. I mean, we got so far behind that we lost that house in a foreclosure, which was devastating. I mean, if I think about it now, I'll cry, because our whole life savings was in that home. I mean, it was like a couple $100,000 that we had put down on this home to keep our payments low, to keep afloat. We still couldn't make it. So, it was very hard. I was upset for Denny because he had worked all his life, both of us, excuse me, and here we were in a financial position where we were losing everything that we worked for. All of our equity in our home was gone. And so here we were in our 60s, late 60s, 60s something, and we had to start all over again. I mean, it was like really hard. It was, and I always say God always watches out somehow, because no matter how bad, I used to say to him, okay, something's good's going to come of this. I know this is hard, but we're going to be okay. And luckily, my daughter at the time was married, and they wanted a bigger home, and they had a home that they wanted. They couldn't sell because of the economy was so bad. They weren't selling. They were upside down on the house. She says, Mom, why don't you just move into the house and take it over, and we'll move. And so her payment, she paid half the house payment, and we paid the other half, and we were able to stay there. We thought we would stay there forever, and we were able to start saving money, nowhere near what we lost, but we stayed there for like 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden she realized, she didn't even know it, she had an equity loan on that house, and it ballooned, and it was ballooning like in 6 months. And so here we were again, upside down, trying to figure out, now what do we do? And it was just, I mean, to stay positive during that time, I was trying to stay positive for Denny. I know my hubby was trying to stay positive for me, and it was just really a tough time. So we ended up getting out of that house, moving in my daughter's basement, and having this home built. And we talked about an apartment living, senior living at the time, but it was just too ridiculously expensive. So we were able to have this home built 6 years ago, and for a very nominal fee, and monthly payment wise is really pretty low. So we were blessed, and that's why I guess I feel so positive about life sometimes, because I think, when you're really down and out, I think something comes along that brightens you, that changes your whole outlook on life. And we were blessed because it was some really bad times. To lose that much money was treacherous. And so now we've been here 6 years. Now we're thinking, now we got to think about downsizing again. After we've been through all this, it's very difficult. So I'm not too worried at this moment, but probably by next year we're going to have to start this process where he's going to have to sell his stuff. You've got to get rid of stuff. You've got to move. You've got to look at your move as a positive thing. I mean, it's a move. I mean, you know, when you think about it, you know, getting a smaller quarters to live in, you only stay in one room at a time. I mean, you could have, you know, a 15-room mansion if you want, but you only live in one room at a time. I mean, what's the difference? That's what I tell them. I go, what's the difference? You know, if we get a I mean, I need 2 bedrooms, I know, because I have to have one for the kids for when they come over, and, you know, but it doesn't matter. If you're healthy, you're happy, you're doing the best you can, you know, it doesn't matter where you live, how big of a unit, how small of a unit you are, as long as you're healthy and happy. And I know the process of getting to that point is extremely difficult. And my only advice, I mean, I used to always say that my life savings and my money, I could never save that much money that used to be that you earn in equity in your home, because the housing market was, I mean, I made a lot of money on my lake house. We actually bought it for hardly anything. It was a lot of money to us then when we bought it, but we made a ton of equity. And I used to say, well, that's our savings, that's our life savings. Our life savings is in our home, and we'll never be able to put that much money aside in a home. And yeah, that was true until the market crashed again and the housing took a dive, and people were just foreclosing left and right, losing their jobs left and right. The economy was terrible, and I wasn't the only one that was like that. I mean, there was a group of people, and we'd get together and talk about this, and there was some pretty tragic endings to some people who were really big at the automotive industry and just lost their jobs and couldn't deal with it, and I've never gotten to that point. So I guess, you know, to downsize, you've got to think about it now. You've got to prepare for it. If you're in your 40s or 50s and you're watching, you know, prepare for that next step, when it'll be. If you see something that you want to save, throw it away, have a garage sale, get rid of it, so the impact of when you get there isn't so traumatic, because it's very traumatic to give up what you're accustomed to and what you're used to. And, you know, I can give up a lot, but I won't give up my wigs for nothing, or my face cream. Anything else, you know, can go, but not those. No, I'm not going to downsize there. Thank you. But anyway, so this is my part 3 to you today, and it's the downsizing, I think, for us women or men of a certain age is probably one of the toughest things to stay positive and stay focused about, because it's a big change in your life. It's a big change in if you're alone and you have to make that decision. I know that's going to be even tougher for some, but you can do it. You'd be surprised how much strength we can pull together, and how much strength you have to make this next journey. And it's tough because you have to get rid of so much. I mean, I could take you on a tour here and probably you'd throw your hands up about all the stuff that we've accumulated through the years that really has to go. And you know, if you're lucky enough to be able to have a garage sale, man, have at it, because boy, you can get rid of a lot of stuff before you have to move, and then before, you know, your kids are faced with having to move everything. I mean, you know, my dad moved my mother. She was so mad when he took her out of her, well, they had a big home, and then she went into an apartment, and then he took her into a senior place, which was really a beautiful senior place. It's on the other side of my town. And she was so mad at him. She used to cry. She'd go, I don't want to live live here. I don't feel old. She was like, you know, spiffy too for her age. She's like, I see somebody one day and the next day the ambulance is here and then they're gone. And she was mad at him for like 6 months for moving her into this place, but it was the best thing she ever did. It was a beautiful place. But my dad planned for his death. He planned, he had his cemetery plots bought and paid for years before. I mean, he was a planner, unlike me. I guess I just never thought about the day would come, and I never planned for it. But Daddy got his, you know, his grave. He got their tombstones. He had their place together. He had money put aside for her. He took her out of the house and put her in the senior complex and knew that the payments were going to be right by her. And he planned it all in case he passed away. Excuse me. So for Daddy to do that for her, he used to say he not only did it for her, but he did it for the kids too. So we didn't have to be burdened with where one of us was going to go, but he just knew that he would probably go first, and he did. So you've got a plan. You know, sometimes you just don't want to think about it. I mean, I haven't even talked to my own kids about, you know, our end date or what could happen or where stuff is at, and you really need to do that. And you know, I started to make a journal, not my Tell God book, but I started to make a journal about, you know, where my stuff is at, where I wanted to go, and of course I have a will for, you know, the financial part of it, but just various things where they go, what I have. At least everybody kind of knows, because it's like I go to try to talk to, you know, my daughter even about, well, you know, I'm not going to be here forever, and you got to do. I don't want to hear about it. Don't talk about it. You know, I don't want to hear about it. So you know, sometimes your kids don't want to hear about that end date, but you know, you've got to prepare for it, and downsizing is part of it. And just be prepared and do it positive. Listen, if I can lose all that we lost, I remember my husband, he was cleaning out the other house because we had to be out of that house by like January or something, and he was cleaning, and I had gone back to work then, and he was cleaning out everything, and he'd call me on the phone and go, what do you want me to do with this barbecue grill? And I'd say, throw it out. Okay, what do you want me to do with this picnic table? Throw it out. I don't want nothing. And I was, you know, I was grieving because I was losing everything, and I didn't want anything. And then after things settled down, I thought, why did I throw that coffee pot away? Why did I throw that barbecue set away? Why did I throw that? Why did I do that? You know, so you got to be rational and think things through when you throw things out or get rid of things. You know, you don't want to do it because you're mad, or you don't want to do it because, you know, you're upset, or because you have to, because there's a difference even in downsizing as to whether you want to, whether you have to, whether it's a necessity, whether it's a need. You know, there's lots of different emotions that go into downsizing. So I hope if you're young enough, you can concentrate a little bit on this process that's coming up. And for some of us, I'm 76, as you know, it comes up sooner than my age even. There are people who have to, in their, you know, 60s for health reasons or whatever the reasons is, they have to move out of their home, whether they can't afford it, they can't take care of the outside, their kids have all moved out of town, nobody can cut their grass. And you know, even having your grass cut today is not cheap. And you know, the budget doesn't allow for it, and you know, you got to do what you got to do. And the main thing that you have is yourself, and you have your positivity, and you have your loved ones, whether they're near or far. You can talk to them, you can make friends, you can have fun. It isn't the end of your life when you downsize. It's just an end of a journey, and on a smaller scale. And I think as long as you get yourself prepared for that, for when you're older, you'll be just fine. It's just the preparation for it that's just hard to get to. So on that note, I hope that you, if you are downsizing, that you can do it with some positivity and change your theory on it, you know, from a need to a want. It's, you know, you need to do it, Maybe you don't want to do it. Maybe you want to do it or don't need to do it. Figure out what your wants and your needs are and go from there. So this is the end of my 3-part series on aging and what to expect, and I hope you enjoyed it. I think I will be back in a few days for a wig review. And by the way, this wig today is Gayle and an updo. I just threw her up really quick, and I'm going to have to get a new Gayle because I think I've worn this one so much it's like wearing out. So yeah, I ain't downsizing my wigs. So anyway, thank you so much for coming into my living room and listening to me, and I hope I can cut this and make this super short because this is way too long. And I hope that if you're thinking about downsizing, prepare yourself mentally for it, and you'll be just fine. You got to just do what you got to do for where your next journey takes you. And if you have a home, that's fine. And if you're thinking about downsizing, get all your options in a row. Go around to apartments, go around to senior places, see where your options are. And we have done that here. Last year when we were faced with we're going to have to move out of here pretty soon, Denny got really sick, and I got really nervous because I can't maintain this house. I mean, our home is pretty big for us too, and the lot is pretty big, and there's a lot to maintain. I couldn't do it, and I don't want to do it. I'm not an outside person. I'm an inside decorator. I'm not an outside person. So anyway, so plan on it. Get a plan, stick to it, write it in a book, put a date on your calendar for when you're going to have your garage sale, prepare, and hopefully you can do one and your husband isn't as nasty about them as mine is. I think it stems from because I used to leave stuff in the garage all the time for days before I cleaned it out and he couldn't get his cars in there. Maybe that has something to do with it, I don't know. But anyway, so plan ahead because it's downsizing might be around the bend for you, and we want you to stay positive and stay focused on it. So I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and ring the bell to get all my notifications of what's coming. And I've got some really neat things coming down the pike here for you too, so you want to stay tuned. So I love you guys. Thanks for joining me in my living room today. I so appreciate you, and I will see you again. I love you. Take care of yourself. Go tag some stuff for selling. Call me though first because I might want to buy it. Bye.